you want to learn about some of the most niche, specific conspiracy theories that you've ever heard of, well, you've come to the right place. My name is Rob. You're watching Rob's ASMR, and in tonight's video, we are going to go on to a deep dive of 5 conspiracy theories you've likely not heard of. We're not talking about the Illuminati, we're not talking about good old Mr. Epstein. We're going much deeper, much more specific. I've done a little bit of research into these conspiracies, and it's going to give your brain something to nibble away at as you hopefully drift off to sleep whilst I ramble on. So first things first, we have to put on the conspiracy glasses to protect our eyes from any government intrusion. There we go. Glasses are on. Hopefully you are snuggled up in bed, or maybe even studying. You want something to take your mind off it. Either way, get comfortable, prepare to relax as we dive into our first conspiracy. The Green Children of Woolpit. This is a 12th century English legend about a brother and sister with green skin who mysteriously appeared in the Suffolk village of Woolpit. The story was recorded by 2 contemporary chroniclers, William of Newburgh and Ralph of Cockshaw, but a definitive explanation has never been found. So the story goes like this. Discovery. During a summer harvest in the mid-12th century, villagers discovered the children near a wolf trap pit. The children wore strange, unfamiliar clothing, spoke an unknown language, and had green skin. A local landowner, Sir Richard Dyatlov, took them into his home. The children initially refused all food offered to them until they discovered and vicariously ate raw broad beans. They gradually adapted to a normal diet, and their green skin slowly faded to a regular complexion. Unfortunately, the younger boy fell ill and died, but the girl survived and eventually learned English. The girl, who was baptized as Agnes, claimed that they were from a subterranean place called St. Martin's Land, where it was always twilight and everybody was green. She said they'd gotten lost after following their father's cattle through a cave and emerged in Woolpit, overwhelmed by the unfamiliar daylight. The girl later married a man from King's Lynn. Now, numerous theories have been put forward over the centuries to explain the mystery, ranging from the mundane to the fantastical. The first one is chlorosis, which is green sickness, and the most common explanation is that the green children suffered from a form of anemia caused by malnutrition, which can give the skin a greenish tint. This would explain why the skin colour returned to normal after they began eating a healthy diet. Another one is Flemish refugees. The children could have been orphans of Flemish immigrants who were persecuted in the 12th century. Fleeing into the dense Thetford forest may have led them to a state of malnourishment, and their foreign language would have been incomprehensible to the English villagers. The girl's mention of St. Martin's Land could refer to a nearby Flemish settlement, Fornham St. Martin. Another one is arsenic poisoning. A modern folk theory suggests that the children were poisoned with arsenic by a cruel relative, which can cause skin discoloration. But folklore and paranormal theories suggest since the 19th century, folklorists have associated the tale with the fairy otherworld, a parallel reality that could be accessed through portals, like the cave the children mentioned. The story aligns with traditional fairy lore, which often features strange food and entrances to the magical realms. Some have speculated that the children were aliens who accidentally arrived on Earth, possibly a matter transmitter malfunction. This idea is a modern reinterpretation. The Green Children of Woolpit remain one of England's most enduring and fascinating medieval mysteries. What do you guys think? Are you on the side of folklore and paranormal theory, or do you think they were potentially poisoned or suffered from green sickness? It's hard to say, it's hard to know, but let that sink in. As we move on to our next theory, known as the phantom time hypothesis. It's a pseudo-historical conspiracy theory that claims 297 years of the early Middle Ages, specifically AD 614 to 911, never actually happened and were fabricated by powerful figures to manipulate the timeline. The theory was first put forward by German author Heribert Illig in 1991 and is widely dismissed by historians and scientists. The core claims of the hypothesis is that Illig proposed that the Holy Roman Emperor Otto III and Pope Sylvester II conspired to invent nearly 300 years of history to align their reigns with the symbolic year AD 1000. Charlemagne as a fictional character. The theory suggests that historical figures from this period, including the Frankish king Charlemagne, never actually existed and were invented only to fill the timeline. The calendar discrepancy, Illig argued, was that the Gregorian calendar reform of 1582 should have corrected for a 13-day drift from the tropical year since the Julian calendar's inception in 45 BC. Since the reform only corrected 10 days, Illig concluded that 3 centuries must have been added to the calendar. Evidence refuting the hypothesis. The phantom time hypothesis is considered an unfounded conspiracy theory because it is contradicted by a wealth of evidence. Historical records include independent chronologies. If centuries were fabricated, the historical records of other major civilizations would not match. However, independent and consistent timelines exist from the Byzantine Empire and the Islamic world, which document events and rulers throughout the so-called phantom time. Chinese records from Chinese dynasties such as the Tang dynasty run parallel to the European timeline with no missing years. These records are independently verifiable and contradict the notion of a fabricated period. Scientific evidence includes dendrochronology, also known as tree ring dating, the continuous growth of rings of ancient trees such as the bristlecone pine, show no 297-year gap confirming the traditional chronology. And astronomy shows ancient and medieval observations of celestial events like solar eclipses, and the reappearance of Halley's Comet are considered with modern astronomical calculations. The timings would be completely misaligned if nearly 300 years had been simply inserted into the timeline. Rebuttal to the argument. It's that the 1582 calendar reform is flawed based on a misunderstanding of its purpose. The reform did not aim to correct the calendar back to its original Instead, it corrected the calendar to the state it was in at the Council of Nicaea in AD 325, when the date for Easter was fixed. The 10-day correction was precisely the amount needed to realign the calendar with the vernal equinox as it existed in 325 AD, which accounts for the supposed missing 3 centuries of drift. That one's fun to ponder, but I don't know how much I believe it, I'm afraid. But you guys can make your own conclusions. I suppose back then you could hypothetically just tell people what the date is and make it up if you had enough power, but how would that carry over continents? How can you spread the word that long ago? I don't know. Okay. The Dyatlov Pass alternative reality theory. It does not exist as a single formal concept, but rather as an element of science fiction inspired by the real 1959 incident. The actual deaths of 9 Soviet hikers in the Ural Mountains remain a deep and complex mystery, which has led to countless speculative theories, including those involving paranormal and otherworldly explanations. The core elements of the real Dyatlov Pass incident that fuel such imaginative theories are: the hiker's tent was found cut open from the inside. The group fled the tent in freezing temperatures, inadequately dressed and without shoes. The bodies were found scattered across the area, and some showed signs of a compelling natural force such as severe internal injuries but little external trauma. One victim was missing her tongue, and other had her eyes removed through these. May have been caused by scavengers. Traces of radiation were found on some of the hikers' clothing. Now, to fully understand this, we must understand the original event. And to answer that story, the incident was the mysterious deaths of 9 Soviet ski hikers. The experienced trekking group, led by 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov, died under bizarre and inexplicable circumstances that have fueled intense speculation. And in 1959, the group of 10 experienced student hikers began their trek. And then the next day, one member turned back due to illness. 3 days later, on January 31st, the group prepared to ascend Mount Ortorton and set up camp. However, the next day, caught in a snowstorm, the group lost their direction and set up their final camp on the eastern slope. 19 days later, when the hikers failed to return on schedule, a search party was dispatched. So, official theories include the slab avalanche theory. The official 2020 Russian investigation concluded that a specific type of avalanche caused the hikers to flee. A study using avalanche simulations supported this, arguing that the hikers' initial action was rational. They got the tent to escape an imminent collapse, but they were doomed by the subsequent freezing temperatures and disorientation. The infrasound theory suggests that high winds created an infrasound vortex that caused the hikers to panic, leading to feelings of nausea, irrational terror that drove them from their tent. Paranormal and science fiction theories include the alternate reality or parallel universe idea. The film Devil's Pass in 2013, the found footage horror films directly explores an alternate reality theory. That in the movie, an American college student retraces the original route and discovers that hikers stumbled upon a Soviet government teleportation experiment. The film portrays a wormhole, mutants, and a conspiracy of silence, culminating in the student's own demise. Another theory is fictional. suggests they encountered paranormal entities, creatures like the Yeti or aliens. These stories explain the injuries and the hiker's panicked flight as a confrontation with something non-human. And the final fiction theory is that it's a government cover-up with secret weapons. A more grounded but still highly speculative version involves a Cold War-era military experiment. This theory persists that the hikers were killed by secret Soviet weapons or witnessed a classified test forcing the government to cover up the event. This serves as a kind of alternate reality for the hikers, one where they entered an area that was fundamentally different and far more dangerous than what was shown on their map. So, that's another scary one. You don't want to be caught out like that, do you? Flippin' heck. Okay. Bear with me. The missing village of Lake Anjikuni is the next one. It's widely known as an urban legend about the sudden, unexplained disappearance of an entire Inuit community in 1930. The story has been spread through books, websites, social media, often featuring sensational details. However, the official sources and modern debunking efforts show that the disappearance is likely a fabrication that grew from less dramatic incident or misreported information. The legend of the vanishing village. According to the urban legend, a fur trapper named Joe LaBelle came across an Inuit village. Inuit. Is it Inuit or Inuit? I don't know. I can't read. On the shore of Lake Anjikuni in November 1930 and found it eerily abandoned. The story describes a village where it appeared that residents had dropped everything and left suddenly. LaBelle supposedly found food still hanging over fire pits and unfinished needlework, suggesting an abrupt departure. Versions of the story often include disturbing discoveries such as a number of sled dogs starved to death and a human grave that had been dug up and emptied. Over time, embellished retellings have added details about strange, pulsing blue or green lights seen in the sky, fueling theories of alien abduction and supernatural causes. The true story and debunking efforts, while modern investigations and analysis of historical records have exposed the tale as an urban legend, likely created or heavily embellished over time. No official record. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police, who supposedly investigated the disappearance, have stated they have no record of any such event. They've officially dismissed the story as an urban legend. Research by Brian Dunning on his Skeptoid podcast identified the earliest account of the story in 1930 by a journalist known for exaggerating his writing. The story's details have grown more dramatic with each telling. Gallagher's original article, for instance, reported that 25 people were missing from 6 tents, while later version claimed over 1,000 people had disappeared. The story's widespread popularity can be traced to author Frank Edwards, who included the tale in his book Stranger Than Science. It was further sensationalized in later books and media about UFOs and unexplained mysteries. The likely origin of the myth is believed that the legend evolved from misinterpretation of normal Inuit practices or exaggeration of a minor event. They were often semi-nomadic, moving between seasonal camps. It's plausible that LaBelle found a camp that had been intentionally abandoned and misinterpreted it as a mysterious disappearance. They didn't have social media back then, so none of them were posting it on Instagram and that, you know. But that's the theory of the missing village of Lake Anjikuni. We have one final conspiracy. I've left, personally, the one I think is most interesting till last. And it's called the Tunguska Event. It was a massive, mysterious explosion 30th, 1908, in a remote forested area of Siberia, Russia. Scientists believe it was caused by a meteor airburst which flattened an estimated 10 million trees over an area of 2,150 square kilometres, or 830 square miles. However, it left no impact crater. The explosion occurred around 7:17 a.m. local time on June 30th, 1908, near the Podkamenaya Tunguska River in present-day Krasnoyarsk Krai in Siberia. A lot of big words there. The cause, while the leading scientific theory is that a stony asteroid estimated to be 50 or 60 meters entered Earth's atmosphere and exploded in an airburst 5 to 10 kilometers above the ground, releasing energy equivalent to 10 to 30 megatons of TNT. Since the object exploded in the air and disintegrated, no impact crater was even found at the site. The explosion's effects were similar to a nuclear bomb's blast wave, causing the forest to be scorched and flattened radially outward from the epicenter. Due to the remote location, there were very few witnesses. However, those who did see it reported a fireball nearly as bright as the sun, followed by a shockwave that knocked people off their feet, broke windows, and from even 100 kilometers away. The aftermath for several nights following the event, the skies over Asia and Europe were abnormally bright, allowing people in some areas to read newspapers at midnight. This sky glow is thought to have been caused by dust and ice particles dispersed into the upper atmosphere by the blast. Investigation, because of the area's isolation and political turmoil in Russia, the first scientific expedition did not reach the site until 1927, nearly 2 decades later. This initial expedition, led by Leonid Kulik, confirmed the massive forest devastation. The 2013 Chelyabinsk meteor event over Russia, though significantly smaller, provided modern data that helped scientists create new computer models to better understand what happened in the Tunguska event. The event was the largest impact event on Earth in recorded history. Its mystery and immense power, combined with the lack of a crater, made it subject of scientific and popular fascination. It was a key motivator for modern efforts to identify and track potentially hazardous near-Earth objects to prevent similar catastrophes in the future. In 2016, the United Nations declared June 30th an International Asteroid Day to raise awareness about the risk of asteroid impacts. That's my personal favourite, because I think, aliens or no aliens, it's cool that that's something that can happen. I mean, it's kind of scary, but something going from space can hit the Earth like that and create such an interesting effect. I don't know. You guys tell me what you think in the comments, but that is it. Those are the 5 conspiracy theories for tonight's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you enjoyed this, maybe I can turn it into a series, because there's so many theories that I could talk to you guys about. But now I'm going to leave it there for now. If you enjoyed, smash thumbs up, please subscribe. We're on a mission to become the biggest ASMR artist in the UK. Any help is appreciated. And with that being said,